Apprenons l'anglais en contexte.
Can you give us a thorough overview?
Une vue d'ensemble.
A thorough overview of some of the other places that you've visited over the years?
Yeah, a couple of highlights.
Quelques points forts.
A couple of highlights. I wish I could talk about Canada because a lot of people talk about it, but honestly, it is so expensive to travel. The population is so small. And the challenges of wildfires.
Les feux de forêt.
And the challenges of wildfires and weather have made it really not a great place to travel. A lot of people, I know it's fashionable to hate and to diss.
Plusieurs ont tendance à haïr et dénigrer.
It's fashionable to hate and to diss the Americans in the United States now. But honestly, some of our greatest trips have been to the United States. I've already mentioned St. Louis, which is an amazing place. A lot of people don't know it. It hosted the World Fair at one time. It's crazy that with poverty and challenges and all the issues in the States, it's gone from a population of 2 million down to, I think, under 500,000. So it's a massive city that has just shrunk in size.
C'est une ville gigantesque qui s'est rétrécie.
So it's a massive city that has just shrunk in size. They have an amazing zoo. They have the city museum. The food is just out of this world.
La nourriture est exceptionnelle.
The food is just out of this world. The barbecue, like the best barbecue ever. Very affordable. The American South generally, right? Like New Orleans, I mean, it's talked about a lot. Haven't visited it during Mardi Gras, but again, the food is absolutely amazing. The people are just outstanding. I went there, took my parents there, and being able to go to some of the restaurants there with my dad was just, it's who you're with, right? And the people really make it. Obviously, I'd be remiss not to mention.
Je m'en voudrais de ne pas mentionner.
I'd be remiss not to mention the Philippines. I mean, I haven't been back a lot since we've been married. It's a long way to go, but I did travel there quite a bit.
What took you there the first time?
So actually, it's funny, that ties into Pakistan.
Cela est lié au Pakistan.
That ties into Pakistan. I was kind of traumatized by my experience there, and I had somebody that, a fellow that I knew back in Canada that had been there before, and he said, if you get a chance, you should go. So having this ticket kind of allowed me to go anywhere. I ended up going there. And I ended up meeting my wife there and going back there several times before our son was born. Because, I was like this idea of a tropical paradise after, Karachi and Pakistan. So, it was really just a whim.
Ce n'était qu'un coup de tête.
Really just a whim. But it's definitely an amazing place. And the interesting thing about the Philippines is that it's definitely, since I've been there, it's definitely becoming more of a popular tourist destination. It's crazy to go back to Canada and have friends that have said, oh yeah, I've been to the Philippines, or, I'm planning on going, right? Whereas a long time ago, it really wasn't a huge destination.
Mm-hmm. And how do you come up with your destinations? Are you particularly interested in off the beaten path locations?
Les lieux hors des sentiers battus.
Off the beaten path locations.
Yeah, definitely. There's less, I think it's great. I can't help but feel that a lot of these popular destinations go to, and especially now with influencers and social media, and people are just on the extreme, right? Places are either horrible or they're the best place I've ever been. And there's a huge space in the middle, right? So I can't help but feel, usually when I've been to those places that people talk about or that have historically been great destinations, they've ended up being a disappointment.
When you talked about your first trip, you said you weren't there. So how do you make sure that you live in the moment now? I've had another guy on the podcast who said something that I found quite interesting. He said, when you go to a place and you are more concerned with what you're going to do next and you spend most of your time on your phone, you're not living the moment. You're just there. You're just taking pics that other people have taken and that you've probably seen on social media, but you're not there. You don't ask for directions, using the language, trying to learn stuff.
Exactly, yeah. And it's so destructive, right? When everybody descends on,
se penche sur,
when everybody descends on, you know, a particular church or a particular site, it's really not great, right? And I can't see it as being a great experience for anybody. So, you know, I like to take a walk. I like to use, you know, we like to use transit.
les transports en commun,
We like to use transit. You know, like as soon as you arrive, just get out, find a bar or a restaurant or something. Again, you know, becoming more extroverted as I get older. Again, engaging with people, right? A lot of people are generally very good. You know, Canada has become a very conservative place, and I find it very odd. I've noticed it in my last couple of trips is that, you know, Canadians used to be outgoing.
ouvert,
Canadians used to be outgoing, you know, used to be known for being abroad, but now it's almost like we're in this little cocoon and we're uncomfortable engaging with people, engaging with strangers. But it is really, really, really great. Obviously, my wife being a Filipina or a Filipino, there's Filipinos everywhere in the world. And, you know, I mean, just because I'm Canadian, I don't need to talk to Canadians. Just because she's Filipino doesn't mean that she needs to talk to Filipinos, but it still is a common thing almost everywhere in the world, which is really cool. But, you know, yeah, going to the bar, striking up that conversation.
entamer cette conversation,
Striking up that conversation. My wife and I took a trip to Boston after we were married on the East Coast. It was a great trip. It was actually in the early days of Airbnb, so it's crazy to think. I mean, I'm not a fan of Airbnb anymore, but
Why?
It's crazy. Can talk about that, but it has definitely made things challenging for everybody. But it's crazy to think that when we were there, we stayed in an Airbnb that was actually affordable.
abordable,
That was actually more affordable than a hotel. It was in South Boston, which I understand is not the safest neighborhood. A lot of immigrants from Cape Verde, which we learned afterwards. And so we were actually staying in the home of a lady, like literally staying in a room of her house, right? And she was originally from Cape Verde herself and her daughter. And yeah, we went out and went to a bar there. And it was interesting. Like, it was, you know, being very white. It was a predominantly black neighborhood. And not only black, but the immigrants were mostly from Africa and from Cape Verde. So I'm sure we got some attention. This bar was definitely a dive.
Dans ce contexte, le terme « dive » décrit le fait que le bar est de mauvaise qualité, mais cela peut aussi désigner un lieu authentique et sans prétention, attirant une clientèle locale pour une expérience simple. On dira par exemple une taverne, ou plus colloquialement un boui-boui, un bar de dernier ordre.
This bar was definitely a dive. They didn't have a lot of food, but they had a lot to drink. And this fellow sat next to us. And we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to eat, but he opened a conversation with us. We got to chatting. You know, and you form impressions about people based on where they are and how they dress. But it turned out...
Il s'est avéré que...
It turned out that he was actually probably quite a successful criminal defense lawyer.
Un avocat pénal à succès.
Probably quite a successful criminal defense lawyer in the area. And he offered to take us out on his boat someday. He told us what to see in the area. He told us things to watch out for. And
Les choses dont il faut se méfier.
things to watch out for and things to do. And, you know, then he left. And as we left, we found out that he'd paid our bill.
Il a réglé notre facture.
Paid our bill at the bar, right? And it wasn't a huge bill, right? But it was an experience that definitely stays with us, and I think encouraged us afterwards just to, you know, not judge people on what they look like or where they are, and to try to be open to things, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And how often do you travel a year?
Oh, gosh. Well, like everybody, trying to make it a lifestyle in a way.
Yeah.
But, you know, we definitely tried to travel probably, you know, probably once or twice or thrice.
3 fois.
Thrice a year, even if it was just to the States. Yeah.
Yeah. Does your job help with that? I guess so. I mean, Other people do way more than that, but then for you to travel twice or thrice.
You know, my job, I've been job switching every couple of years now.
Okay.
And unfortunately, government worldwide has definitely cut down on expenditures.
Notre gouvernement a réduit ses dépenses.
Cut down on expenditures.
Yeah.
And since I have been in kind of that supply chain procurement side, you see that.
Et comme j'ai travaillé dans cette chaîne d'approvisionnement du côté des achats, cela se fait remarquer.
And so, you know, unfortunately, government doesn't really allow you to travel much at all. COVID made a change to that, right? With a lot of work from home, maybe allowing people to travel more locally, but it's definitely not an opportunity to travel. And even, you know, unfortunately, the vacations and the benefits in Canada and with Canadian governments are not that great anymore. And salary, obviously, all around the world, you know, government people are not paid as much as they used to be, and the cost of living has gone up everywhere, right? And even with Deloitte, I mean, there's that misconception. I was there for 2 years. There's this thought, you know, of consultants traveling around the world. But unfortunately, the area that I was in was quite, did not travel. So, you know, and I don't think that I regret that. I think I want to keep the travel separate from the work. I think, you know, I've heard from others, and I think my parents sometimes, you know, think, well, wouldn't it be nice to make travel your work, right? To work in a job where you travel and to know people that have done that. But I don't think so. You know, I don't try to be comfortable. I mean, I know slow travel is a thing. I wish I could slow travel all the time, but you can't really. You know, everything is expensive. It's a balance between cost and speed and convenience.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't like the idea of getting on a plane, going to a place for, you know, a weekend or something, or a couple of days for work and then coming back.
Yeah,
right?
I relate. Et voilà, pour plus de contenu, abonnez-vous et activez la cloche de notification. À présent, essayez de faire un bref résumé de la conversation dans les commentaires pour évaluer votre compréhension.